And we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. So today we're going to talk about the most effective and efficient, ways to report bugs to engineers. And our guest tonight is Prashant, and we've known Prashant for some time now. And Prashant is an engineering manager at a company called MoEngage, but more on that later. And in the meantime, some intro to the webinar itself. So we're going to take about 45 minutes of the presentation, and then at the end, we're going to do a 15-minute Q&A session. The reason why is because if you have a question, Prashant might actually have already answered this in the later part of the presentation. So let's keep all the questions until the very end, and then we'll address all of them. And we'll also share the recording afterwards. So if you need to share it with your colleagues, for example, and by the way, if your colleague is interested in the webinar and seeing it live, you can share the link with your team. But nonetheless, we will share the recording afterwards. And it's quite interesting today because mostly, we have QA people joining our webinars. Today it's quite interesting because I've checked the audience, and it was also customer support. It was some product managers. So we're going to have probably questions from very different points of view.
Awesome.
And with that, first of all, share maybe how you learned about the webinar in the comments. It's going to be quite interesting to see where everyone's coming from. And with that, I will hand over to Prashant. And yes, let's enjoy the presentation.
Thank you so much, Dan, and the entire team of Birds for having me. Dan, can you confirm if you can see my screen and my deck?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Then let's get started. All right. Thank you everyone for joining in. Welcome to the session Bug Reporting 101, Writing Effective Bug Reports. My name is Prashant Hegde. Before we start, a bit about myself. I'm a passionate software testing leader from India. My expertise is in building high-performing testing teams. I have been in the software testing space for almost a decade now, and my passion is, always been sharing knowledge. I have been sharing knowledge and my expertise with software testing communities around the world. I'm an avid blogger. I have authored articles for leading software testing magazines, newsletters, blogs, and so on. I'm also a frequent speaker in software testing and Agile conferences. I have been fortunate enough to speak at several international conferences as well. I currently head the testing team at a company called MoEngage, which is in Bangalore, India. MoEngage is a leading marketing, automation, and customer engagement platform. MoEngage is empowering hundreds of brands worldwide to engage their customers and retain their customers. This is more about me and my company, so please do connect with me. I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. If you are still on Twitter, you can connect with me on Twitter as well. And you can find all my latest content on my website, prashanthegde.biz. And recently, I also started my own YouTube channel. So please do encourage me by subscribing to Software Testing and Beyond. With that, let's begin the presentation. Dan, just confirm if you can still hear me.
Yes, can hear you and see the presentation.
Thank you. All right. So this is what you can expect from today's session. In today's session, you will learn what is the significance of writing good bug reports. You will learn why good bug reporting really matters. You will in fact learn how to write a good bug report. We will talk about standardizing your bug report and why standardizing your bug report can be beneficial for you, your team, and your entire organization. I'll also talk about the do's and don'ts of bug reporting. We'll touch upon a challenge that most of the testers face about how to manage or how to balance the speed and quality of bug reporting when there are a lot of bugs. And finally, we'll talk about tips, tricks, and I will also share some interesting frameworks that will help you to elevate your bug reporting skills to a whole new level. I'm really excited for this one. I hope you learn something new today, and I hope that you'll be able to take away something that you can go back and implement back in your work. All right. So coming straight to the point, bug reporting is one of the most valuable testing skills, without a doubt. I think we as testers and we as a team realize the importance of a good bug report. However, I still feel that uh, especially testers do not take this skill very seriously, right? We do not invest a lot of time to upskill our bug reporting skills. And and I don't know whether it is consciously or unconsciously we are ignoring or unaware of the fact that we need to upskill our bug reporting skills, because we as testers do two things. I was discussing with Dan the same thing, that we test, we report bugs. You need to be good at both of these things, but somewhere we are not spending enough time or investing enough in upskilling the way we report bugs. So that's why I thought this is a great place wherein I can share about how you as a tester, or you as no matter anybody from the development team, how can you improve your written communication of reporting good bugs. I was reading this very interesting survey. It was from Word Quality Report. So it was asked, what is the most important skill a tester should have to be successful in an agile environment? Surprisingly, you see a lot of skills, but there is no mention of bug reporting or bug advocacy anywhere. So my question still remains: are we taking bug reporting and are the skill of bug reporting and bug advocacy for granted? Uh, do we have that impression that we have already mastered this skill? Trust me, I speak to a lot of testers, both seniors as well as juniors. I take at least 2 to 3 interviews a day. I see that 90% of the testers whom I speak to have a lot of skills. They're smart, they're talented, but when it comes to reporting bugs, sorry to say this, they're really pathetic, right? So this clearly shows that we as a community have overlooked this important skill of bug reporting for a very long time now. So now I want to touch upon why bug reporting really matters, right? Why do we really have to write good bug reports? We all have heard about Boehm's curve. It says that the later you find the bug, the more expensive it is to fix. The cost of fixing the bug increases as the time passes, right? The later, uh, if you find a bug in a later stage, it costs you more, right? Bugs are expensive. This is why bug reporting matters. When you don't write good bug reports, there is a back and forth of information that happens, which in fact delays the process of fixing this bugs altogether. So this slows down the entire team. There is a direct effect on your release velocity, right? When there is a back and forth of information between the developer and tester, so what happens is there is wastage of time. It slows down the entire team. It costs you money. Furthermore, it can also cause frustrations in the team. Uh, but the main point that I want to make is it takes a hit on your reputation, on your credibility as a tester. Because let's say I report a lot of invalid bugs, duplicate bugs, or the bugs that cannot be replicated. Obviously, the developers will stop taking me seriously, or the next subsequent bug reports that I report, right? So there are a lot of damage that happens, which we can prevent by writing good bug reports. When a developer is fixing a bug, this is very interesting. So 80% of the developer's time is consumed in gathering the required information. There is a graphic by Bird, in fact, which hilariously shows how there is a back and forth between the developer and the tester, and there is a back and forth of messages asking for more information. It may be asking for a screenshot, asking for a console log, or a API call that was made, right? So developers have a hard time in getting the required information that they need to fix a bug. That's where they spend most of their time. Then they take only 20% of time for fixing bugs. So this is where we can make a difference by reducing this 80% of the time that developer spends in gathering the required information to fix the bug. So here is how a good bug report or a bug report template looks like. I call this a predefined template or a standardized bug report. Just take a second to glance through this, right? This contains all the important components that needs to be a part of bug report, it contains a title, location, frequency of the issue, bug category, software version, test environment, severity, priority, test data, expected and actual results, impact on the business or the user, steps to replicate, evidence, attachments, and workaround. So you may ask me, why standardize a bug report? Why should I follow a predefined template? We testers break rules. We don't follow rules. Why should I follow a predefined template? Why don't I follow my own template? So this is the reason. Because when everybody writes bugs their own way, right? When everybody has their own structure for a bug report, when everybody uh, has different levels of sophistications for the same bug, right? So here is an hilarious example of how three people would, draw an insect and the parts. So think about the developer, right? If there are 10 people in your team and 10 people report bugs in 10 different ways, it becomes really difficult for the developer to absorb this information and then take a use and make a useful observation from your bug report and then fix the bug. So that's why standardizing really helps, because when you standardize your bug report, there is a common understanding of uh, of what the bug report really means. Everybody understands what are the different components of the bug report. Everybody speaks the same language, and hence there is no confusion. And more importantly, we don't miss out any important information, right? Because as you can see here, this person has mentioned a lot of details, whereas this person has hardly any details. So when you standardize a bug report, it ensures that everybody has the enough information and nobody misses any important information in their bug reports. Plus, when you upscale, when you scale your team, let's say tomorrow you have 20 people in your team, everybody writes bugs the same way. So there is a consistency that is maintained. This, in fact, will result in saved costs. It saves time and it increases profit because developers are able to consume your bug reports faster. All right, so I hope you guys are there with me till here.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right, now we will deep dive into how to write a good bug report. We'll go into each and every section or different components of a bug report and what a good bug report looks like. The most important part of your bug report is your bug title. We also call it as a summary. This is the most read part of your bug report, right? So it's paramount that you need to make sure that your bug title is impactful. The first point is keep it short, clear, specific. And I always say that use it as a clickbait. Don't get me wrong here. Clickbait has got a lot of negative reputation because it has deceptive content, right? It has a killer title, but when you really open the link, there is no substantial or a good content in that link. But when the content does justify the title, it's always good to have a killer title, because based on what your title is, right, your stakeholders decide whether to open the bug or not, right? They look at the title first and then decide if it is worth it to really investigate the bug or look at the bug in deep, because stakeholders or decision makers probably will open the bugs which feel are more important. I'm not saying you should exaggerate your bugs, but what I'm saying is it's also important to write bug titles in an impactful way. And of course, think about searchability in mind, because people use keywords to uh, search for the bugs before reporting or to find similar bugs. So make sure you remember searchability in mind and ensure that your bugs are searchable. Include all the keywords that are necessary in your bug title. And also, your title should be just like that of, let's say, a newspaper headline, right? When you read a newspaper headline, you consume the entire story without needing to read the description, right? The title itself suffice. You can in fact understand the whole story without reading the rest of the content. So that's how your title should be. Here are some more examples of what a bad title looks like and what a good title looks like. So the first example here is vague. It says issue with email archive. I have seen a lot of testers and even a lot of support engineers who report bugs with titles like this, which doesn't make a lot of sense, which is not very specific. It's rather vague. Another classic mistake people do is they write what is expected or what the expected behavior is in the title. In fact, you should be writing about what the problem is in the title, but people end up writing what is expected in the title, which again uh, is not a good practice. And some people write a lot of big lines and sentences. They have long lines and sentences in their title, which again becomes very hard to read and make sense out of it. So try to keep it short. Here is how a good bug title looks like. This is in fact a standard template that I use. I will tell you what this really means. So here I start with the location or the screen where the bug was found, right? For instance, here it was found in the archive function. Then I speak about the reproducibility of the bug. How frequently can I reproduce this bug? Is it consistent? Is it frequent, occasional, once thus far, twice thus far? Ensure that you speak about the reproducibility of the bug. Of course, you want to get it to consistent before you report it, but sometimes you may end up reporting some bugs which are not really consistent, but still you can report it with the occasional or frequent reproducibility titles. Then you have the bug category. It can be functional, security, performance, compatibility, usability, accessibility, and so on. What bug category does your bug belong to? And finally, you write a short and crisp title and write it from the user's point of view, right? Say what happens, how does this bug affect the user. Make sure you write the titles from the user's point of view. Right? This is one of the standard templates that I use. Again, I'm not saying that you should use the same template, but what I'm saying is you need to modify this as per the needs and context of your organization or your product. But this is something which is generic and can be reused, of course, in your organization as well. Moving on, the next part is bug description. So, title limits you from writing a lot of text. So this is where you can, write a lot of text in your bug description. Try to elaborate the bug from the user standpoint in the bug description. Then you write about the environment of where the bug was really found. You need to add your operating system where the bug was found, your browser, and most importantly, the software version where the bug was found. Many of us skip this because the same product can have different versions. So make sure you're mentioning your support version. Some of this can go as a custom field in your bug tracker, whether it's JIRA or any other bug trackers that you use, but ensure that this information is captured. Then you speak about the URL where the issue was found, if it is relevant, and then the test environment. You may have multiple environments, staging, local, production. So speak about that. And then another important part of the bug report, which I don't see a lot of testers write, is impact of the bug on the business. See, you are not just reporting bugs to say that there is a bug. As a tester, you also have the responsibility of advocating for your bugs or influencing your stakeholders to pick the right bugs. That's what we call as bug advocacy, right? So it's important that you specify what happens if this bug is left unaddressed. What is the consequence of this bug? Will there be an impact on the revenue of the business? Does this have a revenue on the reputation of the business? what happens if this bug is left unaddressed. For instance, for this bug wherein the archive does not work, in this example it says that archive is an important feature because many premium customers use it and their use cases are blocked because of this. So hence, if you do not fix this bug, they may look at alternatives in the market. If possible, try to get some numbers and facts to support your arguments in this section. Continuing bug description, there are also priority and severity fields, which I'm sure you guys already know about it, and it's one of the classic interview questions of what's the difference between severity and priority. Severity is the impact of the bug on your business or your users, and there are many categories to it. Similarly, priority is the urgency to fix a bug. Basically, priority decides which bug gets fixed first, not the severity. So ideally, we as testers, we have this habit of exaggerating severity and priority. So make sure you are cautious when picking severity and priority, because we as testers are effective because we we are objective about someone else's code, right? Developers might not be good testers because they are not objective about the code that they write. Similarly, we as testers might sometimes not be very objective about the bugs that we write, right? We always have this tendency of choosing higher severity and priority. So we need to, be a little cautious there and ensure we pick the right severity. And it's always a good practice to let your product owners or your, decision makers to reassign the priority, because you really may not know whether a particular bug has to be fixed at this time, right? So it's best if the decision makers decide the priority of the bug. The next sections that you write is expected result and actual result. Expected results talks about what should happen, and ensure that you use the words should or must when you talk about what is expected. And in the actual result, you just say what is really happening. These two should contrast each other. And finally, you can also write about if optionally, if there is a workaround, if there is a way how user can skip this bug, right? You can write about a workaround. This is important because when stakeholders make a decision during triage or when they look at your bugs, they will know what priorities to set if there is a workaround. Right? If there is a workaround, probably they may decide whether a bug has to be fixed at this moment or at a later point in time. The next section is steps to reproduce. So here is an example of a bad steps to reproduce. This does not look like a bad, steps to reproduce, but still there are a lot of mistakes done in this part. If you see, one mistake that we often do is we start with launch the app, log into the app, which are very obvious. And I think engineers are smart. You do not need to start with these steps. Either you can have a precondition which says the user should be logged in, but my suggestion is you need not even have this precondition because it's very straightforward and obvious. The next mistake is having multiple actions in the same point. So it's a good practice to have one action per point. You cannot say that, go click on the button and go search that and click on submit. You cannot merge three actions in in one point, because it becomes really difficult to follow up with your steps to reproduce. So try to keep it one action per step. And another mistake that you need to avoid is avoid a lot of steps for navigation. So usually what happens is uh, your bug follows a pattern wherein you navigate to this. You stop there and then you start with the steps wherein the bug is reproduced. So when when you have a lot of steps, try to reduce that step to one, and make sure you eliminate the steps that are required for navigation of that page. And finally, if you look at the last point, it does not really say what happens. So it's important that you lead the readers to the problem. So here you can see, I say that observe that the emails are not archived. So you need to lead your users to the your readers to the problem. What I mean is, you need to talk about you know you need to talk about observing something something that is not happening right, or you need to say notice that this is not working, which is actually missing in this bad steps to reproduce. I often compare testers with detectives. A lot of detectives work is dependent on the evidence that they find to support the claims that they make. So similarly, we as testers need evidence for the bugs we report. So there are three major evidences we rely on. Those are screenshots, videos, and logs. Starting with screenshots, for any issues related to user interface, you need to have a screenshot, because what you can explain with a screenshot probably would take 1,000 words to explain with words, right? So uh, have a screenshot and make sure you annotate it. Many of the times we just add the screenshot, we do not annotate it, we do not circle where the issue is, or add a text saying that this is the exact problem. So make sure you annotate and highlight the issue, which many testers fail to do. Many times these bugs which have complex steps are difficult to explain with steps to replicate. So that's when videos come in handy, right? So you can use videos for complex bugs, but you need to be careful. One of the classic mistakes I have seen people is, they forget to turn off their microphones, and they are cursing their developers, which also gets recorded in the video. That is something that you should probably be careful about, and you should be careful about not sharing some sensitive or personal information when you are recording your videos. And also it's important that you visualize or show the viewer where you are clicking and tapping. Ensure you capture the clicks or taps when you record the videos. I hope you guys are with me. Dan, just a confirmation.
Yes, yes.
Thank
Some people are saying that the webinar has restarted for them from the very beginning on LinkedIn, I believe. So one person said that you can refresh the page. So please refresh the page, or I guess if you hear me now, you don't need to do that. And then another person had a comment that we should report this bug to LinkedIn.
Okay, awesome. All right, I think I will continue in that case. I hope
Yeah,
the
let's
people.
let's continue. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So the last part is the logs, which play a very important role. Half of the developer's job is done if you get the right logs to them, right? So uh, many times testers are reluctant in looking at, or providing the necessary logs, whether they're console logs, network logs, crash logs. Either we are uh, you know not technically ready to find those logs, or somehow we stay away from getting those logs which developers need. So it's very important that your bug reports give add those stack trace which can help actually the developers to fix bugs faster, so that you can accelerate your releases. So equip yourself with the tools, with the knowledge that you need to be able to look at logs and also add them in your bug reports. So this is a very interesting framework which I want all the viewers to take away today. This is not just for report. This is not just for bug reporting. This can be used for any corporate communication. Any written corporate communication can use this framework. This is called as Minto's pyramid principle, which is used to structure your thoughts, your ideas, and it teaches you how to write effectively so that you can capture the uh, reader's attention and hold it, and make sure that they're interested to read the communication that you're sending out. Let me explain you how this works. Traditionally, the research papers, or if you look at the thesis, they start with facts, data. They then have arguments, and after reading some 10-15 pages, at the end you have the conclusion, which is the which is the summary of the entire whole thing, right? That's the key takeaway, which is at the bottom of a very long document. So basically, this Minto pyramid principle inverts that. In Minto's pyramid principle, what you do is you start with the conclusion or the key point first. This is because today our executives or people at the leadership positions do not have a lot of time, nor do they, their attention spans are very low. They don't have enough time to read, lengthy documents or lengthy written communication. So it's important that you give away the conclusion first. I will share an example after the slide, but the crux is you start with the conclusion or the key point first so that you gain the audience's attention. And in our case, in case of bug report, this conclusion is your bug title. That is, the answer or the key point you want the readers to take away. Followed by that is the supportive arguments. Since you have already given away your, conclusion or the key point, now you need to support it with the arguments, with your key arguments. In our case, this is our bug description. And to make your arguments, to support your arguments, to build trust in your arguments, to make your arguments credible, you need to support them with data, with facts. That's your attachments, that is your screenshots, your logs, or your videos which show the evidence of the bug. So here is an example which I borrowed from untools.co. So if you see here, this person is writing an email, right? And he's following this principle. So he's giving away the conclusion first, right? This is the summary of this whole findings. Then he supports his conclusion with his key arguments, and then he's adding numbers and data. So this is brilliant, right? Let's say I'm an executive. I just come read the conclusion. If I'm really interested to dig deeper, I will look at the arguments and I would be convinced looking at the data. This is how a good written communication goes out. It's not just for your emails, your bug reports. Even executives use this for pitching. It can be used in your presentations. It can be used in no matter any written communications that you send out. The next framework that I want to talk about today is called as RIMGEN. It's a bug investigation and bug reporting framework which is taught in the BBST advocacy courses. RIMGEN stands for replicate, isolate, maximize, generalize, externalize, and neutral too. Let's try to understand what this really means. R stands for replicate. So try to understand that this is not just a bug reporting framework, this is also a bug investigating framework. So before you report any bug, first thing you need to make sure is that you replicate the bug first. And post that, once you are sure that you can replicate the bug, you need to see if your steps to replicate is in fact helping the reader to reach that bug. Speaking about isolate, isolate basically says that your steps to reproduce uh, should ensure that they are the shortest. It has the shortest possible steps to reach the bug. Sometimes it might be a long cut. It might have 10 points. See if you can reduce it to 5 points. To in fact reduce the number of points, you need to know what is the critical condition that is causing the problem. Only then you will be able to reduce the number of steps. And the idea here is to reduce the number of steps and to find the critical conditions that are causing the problem. Next, we speak about maximize. Maximize basically talks about maximizing the impact of the bug. Many times the bugs that we report are just small symptoms of a much larger bug that is hiding somewhere. Uh, it can be called as bug in a bug. So see if you can maximize the impact of the bug. So how do you do that? You do that by varying the variables, vary the behavior, vary your actions, vary the settings, configurations, vary your options, and then you can also vary your test data, you can vary your software, your hardware, right? The idea here is to see if you can maximize the impact of the bug that you are reporting. As I told you earlier, as a tester, our job is not just to report bugs, but also to influence our stakeholders to get the right bugs fixed. So that's why, you see the different steps in this whole framework. Then it talks about generalizing the bug. Nobody, really cares about fixing edge cases, or uh, you know the corner cases. Many times our bugs are dismissed saying that this is a corner case, right? You don't want that to happen. So see if your bug really impacts more people than you expected. See if it can be proven to be occurring in less extreme conditions. Can you prove that this bug happens in a broad range of systems, right? So try to generalize your bug is what this framework is trying to say. Then you speak about externalizing the bug. Speak about who is impacted by this bug. So I talked about this, impact on the user or the business. This is kind of doing what this framework is telling you, right? If you look at externalize, it is saying about, what is the impact of the bug on the users, right? What happens if this bug is there? Does it give our competitors an advantage over us? Will this, get us criticisms from the press? Does it, you know does it lead to a usability weakness? Will it affect others? Let's say, will this bug increase our support costs? Is there a compliance problem because of this bug? Will it, affect the sales? Or is there any legal issue that might happen because of this bug? See, try to prove that your bug can affect much larger audience. And the last point is, it's very important that you communicate your bugs in a fact focused and in a neutral fashion. Try not to criticize your developer in your bug report. So it's very important that your bug reports speak in a very neutral tone. So this is an amazing framework. I want you guys to, remember this um, heuristic. You can remember, RIMGEN, and this can in fact drive your thinking process when you are reporting a bug. Now we speak about the do's and don'ts of bug reporting. So one of the things that we testers usually, fail to do is we do not know the different elements of the UI. For instance, what is this three dots, right? What is a pop-up? What is a popover? What is a slider, right? There are so many different elements in the UI. So make yourself familiar with the different elements in the UI, so that in your bug reports, uh, you use the terminology which, everybody else understands. I spoke about, inconsistent bugs, and how, you need to even report the bugs that are inconsistent, as long as you mention that, this bug is a, inconsistent one. It happens occasionally. As long as you can say that, you can still report inconsistent bugs. It's also important that you as a tester get, feedback from the developer. Ask your developers whether your bug reports are helping them to solve the problem quickly. Ask them what you can improve in your bug reports, and try to, continuously improve. And also start integrating your bug reporting tools with your communication channels like Slack, because this will help you to uh, improve your response times. Let's say if somebody comments on your bug report, you should be able to answer them quickly, right? Sometimes it can happen on Slack or on your email. So as long as there are integrations with your common communication channels, you can increase your response times for the queries that come on your bugs. And finally, keep an eye on, invalid bugs, duplicate bugs. See if you can measure the back and forth of bugs that happen whenever there is a bug reported, because it can be an important metric which gives a hint that, something is not right. Speaking of don'ts, one classic mistake a lot of people do is they start, tracking bugs via spreadsheets, documents, emails, which is a big no, because You'll not be able to manage a lot of bugs in spreadsheets. And try to keep things simple, avoid jargons in your bug report, and try to keep one ticket for one issue. Many times testers create one ticket for multiple issues, which causes a problem because you cannot track it to closure when there are multiple tickets. Sorry, when there are multiple problems reported in a same ticket. And before reporting bugs, ensure that you look for duplicates. If there are any existing bugs about this issue, ensure that you do not report it. If you are in a doubt whom to assign the bug, talk to your development manager. Do not assign bugs to the wrong people. Always have plugins which can help you to capture some basic spelling mistakes or grammatical mistakes. All right. So I spoke about a lot of good things and bad things. So you may ask me, hey Prashant, I have let's say a lot of bugs. I need to report hundreds of bugs in a very short time span. So how do I capture so many how do I capture so much information and ensure the quality of the bug report is good when I have to report a lot of bugs? So that's wherein birds enter. So I'm not uh, I'm a big fan of birds. I'm not trying to promote it just because it is birds webinar, but uh, I have been using birds for a very long time now. So what I understand is we as testers always focus on automating our tests. We never think about automating our bug reporting, because most of the time we are reporting bugs, but we are not thinking about how we can automate our bug reporting. So birds exactly does that. Birds helps you to automate the most time consuming parts of your bug report. For instance, the most time consuming parts of your bug report are recording videos, transferring it to your device, and then finding the required logs, then attaching them to your bug report. Then it might be your system information, right? So these are some of the tasks that take a lot of time. So what if there is a tool which can record your screen, it can record your audio, it can automatically capture your console logs, network logs, your system information, and give it to you in a link. Just by sharing this link, your developers will be able to get all the necessary information to fix a bug. But more about that later. I think Dan is going to give you a small overview of birds if you are interested. But yeah, find ways of how you can smartly automate the most time consuming parts of your bug reporting, and see how you can connect them with your uh, bug reporting tools, like your bug managers, like your JIRA or Bugzilla or whatnot, right? So that's about that. And another important thing is you don't always have to report bugs to get them fixed. So Agile Manifesto speaks about individuals and interactions over processes and tools. So you can always sit next to your developer and spend some time testing together and fixing bugs together. I know it cannot happen all the times. You can be working in different geographies and stuff like that, but if there is an opportunity, do sit with them, do work with them, sit together, pair test your application together, see if you can work together to find and squash bugs in a very short time. This can greatly increase your this can greatly increase your release velocity. I've almost come to the end of the session. What I want to convey is writing a good bug report is an art, and it cannot be learned overnight, right? The only way to master it is by practice. So I have talked about bug reporting. One step ahead of bug reporting is bug advocacy. As I kept telling you that just reporting bugs is not enough. You need to be influential as a tester, and you need to get the right bugs fixed. So the next step is learning about bug advocacy. So I have dropped in some useful links which will help you to learn about bug advocacy. Uh, so you can always use these links and learn more about bug advocacy. With that, I open up for questions. And of course, please do connect with me on LinkedIn. These are my social media handles. You can also subscribe to my website and my YouTube channel. With that, Dan, yeah, we can take questions now.
Yeah, the first question people were asking if the session is recorded, and the answer is yes. So if you missed anything, or if you want to get the links to the resources that Prashant shared, this will all be like, we'll post it on LinkedIn, we'll post it on Twitter and YouTube. So this is not gonna go unnoticed. In the meantime, please feel free to post the questions. We'll try to answer as many as possible. And the first question, quite interesting. I've never answered this question to myself. When it comes to severity and priority, how do you make sure that it is understood by everyone similarly? And maybe like to add to that, like you can get an understanding of the QA team, or like the QA team plus engineering team, but let's say a bug is reported by customer support, and like how do you make sure that it's not always, oh, everything's broken, like we need to fix it immediately, and this is the end?
I think that's where documentation comes to play, right? So it's education, which in many of the companies do miss out on the education part of getting all the different departments to one place, educating them on what severity means. There should be a common definition of what severity means, what priority means, and then everybody adhere to the same thing. So first thing is education, second thing is documentation of the same, so that people can have a common understanding. So problems can happen when people do not really know the difference between the both, or have a different meaning for the same thing.
Okay. Then the next question, regarding the components of bug report. Usually we use the functionality of the test management report, which is being used on the project. And the existing configuration is not so rich. This tool does not provide all desirable components. To add more components requires too much effort. Should we add the sufficient additional info to a bug description? What can you advise in this case?
If your tool that you're using is not really flexible, then you'll have to rely on text, right? As long as you have this template in form of text, and the simplest way is you ask people to copy paste from that template. I know it sounds very very hard way to do that, but most of us use Jira. Jira has plugins wherein it can load uh, a defined template. But if you're using some other tool, I'm not sure if you have that. But the easiest way is to try and see if there is a way you can pre-populate some of this information in the bug report, so that everybody uh, can look at that pre-populated content and then just add what is required. So see if you can pre-populate some of these desired components in your text field or in your bug description field.
And I think a follow-up to that question, what about such a component as an ID of test case? If the bug was found during test case execution, is it a good practice to add this info as well?
I think most of the bug reporting tools automatically generate the ID. So I did not speak much about it because that is handled by most of the modern bug reporting tools. They do automatically generate the IDs for you, uh, and they append it next to the URL of your bug reporting tool. So if that is not done, I'm not sure. I think most of the tools do generate the IDs automatically for you. So I would say upgrade your upgrade your tool is the only thing that I can say if it is not generating ID for you.
Okay, and I think also the third question from the same person. Imagine that there are a lot of bugs in one module or one screen, especially while new feature testing is performed. What do you think? Is it better to report all the defects separately, or is it okay to report one bug with all cases described? I have such situations very often and make one big bug instead of 10 separated.
So okay, there are multiple problems in this whole question. First is the problem, the root cause of this problem is you are getting half baked builds which are not of optimal quality. So the first step in this process is to ensure that you get builds which are of decent quality. So make sure that you have something like a predefined test cases, or we can call it acceptance criteria, before you actually when you hand when developer hands over, or when the handoff happens between dev to QA, there should be something that a developer should have tested himself, so that the tester gets a optimally good build or a good functionality. That's the first step, I think, which is missing. Second is, it's not a good practice to have lot of bugs in one ticket, because you cannot close that ticket until all the tickets are closed, right? Let's say one ticket is open, one ticket is closed. How do you really manage it? That's not going to work. So ideally it should be one bug for one ticket that you create. but
Right.
but the root causes, the quality of the builds probably you are getting is a bigger problem here.
Yeah, actually, the person comments on the root cause of why they're doing so, and I found that even more interesting. So the person says, I don't want to show that the implementation has bad quality. To save good relationships with the developer, do not spoil the stats and so on, and
Yes,
do not
yes.
spend too much time for entering the same components data, environment taste data, separate attachments. I guess the latter part can be copy pasted in many cases, but the first one is that's a tough one, I think.
uh, yeah, so the relationship, see, the problem is, everything is a people problem, but you need to have processes in place, because you need not have to spoil your relationship with the developer, as long as there is a process in place and everybody follows this process. So try to get this process in place, wherein there are certain steps done by a developer to demonstrate that some sort of testing or one round of testing is already done by our developers before they hand it over to you. I think that will solve a lot of your problems.
um, Great. So next question. When facing an intermittent bug, how much time should a tester invest in trying to reproduce it, and when should we stop?
That's a good one. Uh, so what I usually do is, when there is an instance of a bug which is kind of tricky to replicate every time, I do report all the observations I make, and probably the next time when I encounter it, right, I start refining that bug to give more details. So it depends on how risky that bug is, right? You need to decide whether it's worth your time to invest. Do you want to invest uh, replicating that bug? Is it causing such a risk? That's the question that you should have. And also, birds has a very interesting feature called replays, which kind of captures your screen and your actions when you're testing. So in case the bug happens, you can always go back and look at what happened, and you can get all the relevant logs. So use smart tools like this to replicate difficult bugs.
Right. That's actually an interesting point that you made. That's like if you're using Bird or any other tool like this that can capture a screen retroactively, or like that you can report bugs, then it's not even a question, because even if it's an intermittent bug, you cannot reproduce it. You just export it
Exactly.
right away, and then you can deal with it basically and understand if it's necessary to report or not. Okay, how do you establish the described level of standardization and sophistication in bug report names and descriptions? For example, do you have a summary of best practices or legend in some internal FAQ?
Uh, can you repeat that? I
Like
don't get.
basically, how do you communicate, like basically what you described in the presentation of like how to put,
Standardization.
like how how to name it and describe it internally?
Yes, I think once you prepare the basic, or a baseline of what your standard bug report looks like, have discussion with your developers, have discussion with your team on on the standardized template, and make sure you get a buy-in from your entire team, and everybody agrees to follow that template. That's very important, because when you are introducing a new change, it requires buy-in from your stakeholders and your team, of course. And then document it, educate the team, educate the developers, make sure everybody understands it. That is something that you'll have to do. You need to, once you have a standard predefined template, you need to call for a session, or a meeting, and You document the same in a place in Confluence or any other wiki that you use, so that any new person who comes in can look at that and understand what our standardized template is.
Mm-hmm. And I think related to that, two questions that are getting harder. How do you collect bug reports from non-technical people in the company? Google form?
See, we use birds again. You need to use smart tools for people who are less technical. So as long as your bug reporting tools can automatically capture technical information, even the bug reports from your non-technical people, let's say like your CSM or your solution engineering or your customers, uh, are still of decent quality because they still contain the relevant logs and the relevant information.
Right. And then related to that, how do you do the same thing from end users? So like, how do you collect good bug reports from end users? I guess who report it to mostly customer support.
Correct. Yeah, that's a challenge always, because you can of course see if there are any integrated tools like Bird you can use with your customers. But if not, you cannot ask your customers to give you good bug reports. I think customer success and solution engineers will have to talk to the customers and probably get it, because I don't see any other way. As long as your customer agrees to use the common tool, they can still do it. But if not, you'll still have to talk to your customers and then get the report.
Right. I maybe would add to that if you solve the problem with customer support reporting issues to QA, PMs, and engineers, then the customer support also knows better how to collect the issue, like the bug reports from the end users, as in like they know which information to ask and so on, rather than just have you tried refreshing the page and clearing cookies.
And also we use tools like LogRocket, which actually captures both the user session as well as the some the session is also captured. You need to basically have monitoring also in place, so that you can also look at the issue from your side before
Yeah.
even the customer can report it to you. So you need to strengthen on your monitoring side as well.
Yeah.
You can ask your engineering team to focus on monitoring.
Yeah, we use Sentry, by the way. And in our case, whenever an error occurs, like if it's a bigger error, then there is a pop-up in the app that says the app encountered an error, and you can report it to us. And then it also has this unique ID, so that when user reports, we get the unique ID, and then an engineer can immediately look up the stack trace, I guess, and the logs for that specific error, and also know which user it happens to.
Exactly. We do use Sentry in a lot of teams.
Right. Do you suggest regression testing on most bug cases raised to ensure no further features have been affected? Currently, in practice, this is a standard form.
Okay, so I'm thinking, it's basically, the question is, do you suggest performing regression testing uh,
On all previous
on
bugs.
all the feature releases? Is the question, is what I'm assuming. See, I think your testing has to be risk based, right? Every time you cannot test, or you cannot go for a regression test. So this is where your automation comes to play, right? You see if you can have automation in place, so that uh, you can still cover your sanity or regression tests when you focus on testing on the new feature. And also look at the impact areas, right? Speak to your developers, understand what are the uh, areas that might be affected because of this change. And the smart thing is, prioritize those test cases or those areas of your application which might be affected because of this change. Again, how do you decide what area is risky? It can be speaking to developer, it can be based on your previous experience, it can be your experience with the app, past occurrences, right? So you should be able to know, okay, if there is a change made in this thing, it can affect so many other things, right? So you smartly pick those things in your testing, and this is complemented by your automated tests.
Right. So we have 1 minute left, so let's have the last question.
Sure.
Do you use a separate tool to manage bugs in addition to JIRA? So Right. Do you know any such tools, and can you recommend? I guess we just just before the webinar we were discussing Bagazura.
Exactly, Bagasura. You can look at Bagasura. I think they just launched on Product Hunt, so you can try Bagasura. I think it's a very good tool, and there are many other tools. But my recommendation is, as long as you have one tool to manage your bugs as well as your requirements, as long as you don't have multiple tools, that works the best. Even if you have multiple tools, they need to speak to each other, integrate with each other really well, so ensure that happens.
Right. Okay, great. I think that brings us to the end of the webinar. So thank you everyone who joined. If you want to stick around, I can show what we're doing at Birdie's Bug. As Prashant mentioned our tool, and thank you. This was not sponsored, by the way, so thank you, Prashant. And Prashant has been a long-time user of Bird.
Exactly.
So yeah, so I'll demo the tool, and for the viewers, please feel free to dial out. We'll share the recording, as I said, and have a good rest of the day. And let me jump to the demo. So I need to share my screen. Okay, so let's say that you are testing a new feature, and you want to add, let's say, a certain color of sneakers, and then you want a quantity of 4, and then you say add to cart. Nothing happens. You say buy now, still nothing happens, and then you say, okay, maybe it's still added to the cart, and then you view the cart and it's still empty. And here you can see we also have broken images. So basically, these are probably different bugs. So as Prashant mentioned, you should not do one big bug report, and you should report them separately. But in case, for example, I don't know whether I would be able to report it or not, or if I would be able to reproduce it, we have a feature called instant replay. So you can launch our browser extension, and you can just click one button saying watch replay, and then we'll immediately export my previous action. So basically, Bert has been collecting this information in the background, and it requires no effort from me. So you just need to activate the replay on a given page, and it will be running all the time, and it consumes a negligible amount of power. Because it's not an actual video that we're recording, but it's a recording of DOM elements, so basically HTML, and then we're creating an animation out of it. So then you can choose which parts you're interested in. So let's say I can trim to this one. And then, as you can see, on the side, we have the technical logs that were captured during this recording. And then we have the console logs, we have the network logs, so we have the requests and responses for these network requests. And we also have basic system information, which is, either it's annoying to add it every time, or in my experience, most people just ignore it or forget to add this information. And from here, I can optionally give this bug report a name and say this is a demo. And then I upload it to our workspace, and then we immediately copy the link. So you can share the link with an engineer, for example, and they will see exactly what you're seeing. But you can also you can push it to JIRA, GitHub, or other tools that we have integrations with. And I'll demonstrate on the case of JIRA. So I can say share in JIRA, and then Bird will immediately pull the fields from your JIRA instance and pre-fill some of them. And like, for example, this list of assignees is also coming from JIRA, so I can assign it to myself. And then I say create issue, and then the issue is automatically created in JIRA, and then I can continue testing. But this is how it looks like in JIRA. So you have some basic environment details, but most importantly, you have the Bird link that engineers should enjoy very much. So this is the core, I think, functionality of Bird. And some of the things that we've added recently is, first of all, the end-to-end helper. So with end-to-end helper, you can do recording. So you can either report a bug, or you want to create an automated test, and then you can do recording with Bird. And from here, you can convert it to an automated test. So basically, you would still need to define the assertions, but a lot of the code would be written for you. In our experience, at least talking with automation engineers, that saves about 40 to 80% of time on writing tests. Also we have some lightweight project management features. So for example, you can assign labels to the bug report or to the test recording. Some companies do, by the way, record all of their tests so that they keep it for documentation purposes. And then you can say that, this is a to-do and this is bug, and all of this is customizable. So you can add, remove the tags as you see fit. And also, in addition to the browser extension that I showed, we have an SDK version of BERT. So you can, or like your engineers can integrate BERT with your staging, for example, or even production environment, in which case you can get good bug reports from people internally, and you can get good bug reports from people externally. So you can either have it, a permanent button on the interface, report a bug, which you probably don't want for production use case. So this is, for example, how we're using this feature ourselves. So if you click this question mark, you'll see a lot of links, and one of them is report a bug. And if I say report a bug, as you can see, I have options to start the screen recording, or I can take a screenshot. And of course, you can also use BERT as a general purpose screen recording tool or screenshotting tool. So you can take a screenshot and then you can annotate it, like Prashant has been mentioning, or you can record your screen. And also, as Prashant mentioned, you can also include the microphone recording so that you can walk the engineer through the expected behavior and so on, so that they don't need to ask follow-up questions. So yeah, this is BERT in a nutshell, and we have a pretty generous free tier. So you can test the tool and see if it's a good fit for you, for your team, and yeah, I mean, hope you like it. With that, I think that this is really the end. So Prashant, thanks a lot for your time. Thank you for attending. It's been quite interesting, like the RIMGEN framework I have never heard of. So I myself have learned quite a bit. And for everyone still watching, please follow Prashant on LinkedIn. We'll share the links after that, and maybe the last words from Prashant.
Thank you so much, Dan, for having me, and thank you all the participants. I hope you learned a thing or two, and yeah, I think this is the point when we should start, really focusing on upgrading our bug reporting skills, and also use smart tools like Bird to take it to a whole new level. Thank you everyone for joining it today.
Great, thanks everyone. Ciao.
Ciao. See you. Bye.